Noles All Access is brought to you by the energy-saving conservation programs of Tico People's Gas. Real Coca-Cola taste with 0 sugar and 0 calories. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Taste the feeling. Welcome to Noles All Access, where we take you inside Florida State athletics. I'm Jay Sutton, and today we'll talk with head coach Leonard Hamilton to recap the win over Miami. Then, Puerto Rican native Sebastian Ousilla brings passion and intensity to the Florida State men's tennis team. And later, head coach Simra joins us to talk about the success of her 14th ranked women's basketball team. All that and much more is up ahead on Noles All Access.
Walker, we are tied! The senior, Trent Forrest, the step back. No! And we are going to overtime. % free throw shooters for Florida State. A trap. Walker trying to escape it, and he does. Now Forrest, the slam. Wardenberg, 2-point game, 10 seconds left. Nearly a turnover. Oh, there were 2 near Florida State turnovers, but the Seminoles escaped one and go to the free throw line on the other.
Doesn't really make any difference now. They don't have time.
Likes. And Florida State survives on the road in overtime.
Coach, I know that you're a young man, but those rough games, those close games of overtime, is that kind of hard on the heart there?
That's life in the ACC. And statistics have proven over the years that 70% of all games in the ACC are decided by 4 points or less. So when you win a game by 4 points, I always tell people it's an ACC blowout. You win by 5 points, man, that's really playing. And that's the nature of our league. It's extremely competitive, regardless of whether you're home or on the road. Everybody has good players, they're well coached. That's who we are, and it's a grind. Whenever you can get a 10-point victory, you gotta feel very fortunate.
Yeah, you mentioned you love to say ACC blowout, and y'all did do that, winning by 4 points, and you picked up your 9th straight win in overtime. When you look back at the game, do you think that it was your ability to force turnovers and score off of turnovers that led to the win?
Well, there were a lot of subtle things that happened in that game, I think, that really don't necessarily show up in the statistical column. One, we had 3 guys in foul trouble in the first half. We had to go deep into our bench. We had to play guys who have not played very much. Nate Jack played, Wyatt Wills played, but they gave us tremendous energy. We had to keep some of our main rotation players on the bench in the first half because we knew that the game would be a dogfight down the stretch. The fact that we were able to play with a lot of people, with a lot of effort, I think the residual effect of that was that toward the end of the game, we had more energy. We were a little quicker, we were more alive, we were able to get more deflection steals. And I think our energy turned up. I think that allowed us to get more energy into the game, get more deflections, run a little faster, jump a little higher. And we're very fortunate to come away with a very hard-fought game because that game could have gone either way.
It could have, Coach. And offensively, you mentioned MJ Walker being in foul trouble in the first half. He finished the game, I think, all of his 19 points in the second half. Devin Vassell, he followed up his career high of 18 points with 23 points in this game, another career high. How big is it for you when your experienced guys are able to step up down the stretch for you?
Well, it's good when your inexperienced guys can step up down the stretch. And I think what you see is the team being a little more familiar with each other, everyone understanding their roles. So we're improving a little bit. The challenging thing for us, though, we're in a place that we haven't been. And it's been a long time since you were ranked #1 in your league in the middle of January. And unfortunately, there's only one place to go when you're #1. Yeah. So we have to maintain, we got to stay focused, we got to continue to keep grinding, keep trying to improve, because basically we're still an inexperienced team.
And after that win, you all are now ranked top 5 in the country, #1 in the ACC. Do you feel that Well, I'll say this. I hear a lot of talk about the ACC being down. I hear more talk about the ACC being down as opposed to talk about how good you all are. Is that something that y'all feed off of?
Not really, because that's just something you got to expect. The league is the most successful, rich tradition basketball league ever assembled in the history of college basketball. But what has happened is the rich traditional schools have been consistent over the years, and they always have been at the top, being the lead dogs in terms of national recognition. But what has happened over the last 10 or 12 years, you have Boston College, you have Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, Louisville, Miami, Florida State, Virginia Tech have all joined the conference. And there's a reshuffling of the deck. And so what's happening is that when the top tier teams are no longer at the top, there must be something wrong. They don't know that there are teams maybe that might be being lifted up or improved as a result of benefiting from being in a conference with such rich tradition. Florida State being one of them. Louisville has always been a top dog. You're going to see different teams step up probably in the next 10 or 15 years, and then it's going to take another amount of years so people can see that when the Blue Bloods are not at the top, then that shouldn't mean that it's down. It means that it's getting better.
Absolutely, Coach. And like you always like to say, the next game is the most important game, right? So
no doubt about it.
No doubt about it. So the next game is actually against Notre Dame, and we'll talk about that a little later in the show. So stick around for that and much more coming up on Noles All Access. Coming up, after overcoming obstacles off the court, Sebastian Ousilla is ready to turn a new page in his tennis career.
Sebastian's maybe one of the most fun guys to come out and watch. You know, he's definitely a shot maker and he hits some shots that maybe other people can't hit or don't try.
Picking up the sport of tennis at 8 years old, Sebastian Ousilla constantly worked on his craft for years until he could finally put himself on display in front of college coaches.
He's an all-court player. He's a good guy to find ways to win. He can slice, he can topspin, he can serve and volley. He can return and come in, so he's got a lot of skill set that enables him to beat different types of players.
Ousilla grew up in the town of Trujillo Alto, Puerto Rico, approximately 15 minutes away from the territory's capital. He credits his hometown for molding him into the man he is today.
Growing up there, it was, I would say it's a very family-oriented place. I spent a lot of time with my family, but as well, I spent a lot of time with the kids in my neighborhood. We basically did everything together.
Ousilla found a new home in Tallahassee in 2017 after joining the Florida State tennis team, but during his freshman year, he was disheartened by situations beyond his control.
Hurricane Maria slamming into the island, and as you heard, one official saying the island is destroyed.
Fortunately, Ousilla and his family were not living in Puerto Rico during the tragic storm, but they still found themselves impacted by the damage it left behind.
We still had a house there that we were renting, and my parents were using that as income basically. And when the Hurricane Maria happened, a ton of people lost their jobs. They could no longer afford the houses they were living in, so the person that was renting for us ended up leaving the house, and we had to basically sustain the house for 7 months with nobody in it. No people to fix the house, fix the destruction that the hurricane caused. So that was definitely hard for us financially.
Sebastian is pretty much more on the reserve side, but we know that it was, of course, a very big deal, and we were always there to help him if he needed us.
Ousilla would push through the hard times, starting off his collegiate career undefeated in both singles and doubles. However, his successes would be put to a halt, as a torn abdominal muscle would force him to miss significant time and slip out of the lineup.
It was tough for me emotionally, it was tough for me as a player, and with my goals wanting to be a professional tennis player, it kind of made me have to rethink everything and readjust what I really wanted in life. So that was definitely a very tough moment in my life, I would say.
But Ousilla never lost his passion while competing for the garnet and gold. And with 2 years under his belt, he continues to hone his skills on the court.
I would describe Sebastian as a really intense competitor, more on the calm side, but inside he hates losing. And even during practice, he always wants to beat the other guy, but always in a good manner and with a lot of sportsmanship. So
I've played mostly doubles, and I would say that's where my game has seen the biggest improvement. The level's a lot higher, so you're definitely pushed to improve your game in order to compete at the collegiate level.
Looking forward to the 2020 season, Ousilla will look to turn a new page in his career and take collegiate tennis by storm. I'm Anthony Fernandez for Noles All Access.
Coming up, head coach Simra joins us for a special interview.
What's up, Noles fans? Florida State has some pretty big matchups coming up this week, and you don't want to forget to mark your calendars. I'm Anthony Fernandez, here to keep you up to date with what's coming up in Seminole athletics. The men's basketball team will face off against Notre Dame at the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center tonight at 8. The Fighting Irish are below 500 on the road and in conference play this season, while the Noles are looking to stay hot after jumping into the top 5 for the first time since 1972. The men's and women's track and field teams are also in action today at the second day of the Bob Pollock Invitational in Clemson, South Carolina. The number 1 ranked Seminoles will battle against 6 different schools, 2 of them being in the top 100 of the Division I rankings. Moving back to Tallahassee, the women's basketball team will square off against the Miami Hurricanes tomorrow at 2 p.m. The Seminoles defeated the Hurricanes earlier this season by 11 points, and no matter what these teams are ranked, the Florida State-Miami rivalry is always exciting to watch. And speaking of a rematch, the men's basketball team will hit the road to take on Virginia in Charlottesville this Tuesday at 7 p.m. FSU came out victorious in a back-and-forth matchup against the reigning national champions on January 15th, so Florida State will be put to the test in overcoming a hyped Cavalier crowd. You can support your Seminoles both at home and on the road by checking out Seminoles.com for the latest in FSU athletics. I'm Anthony Fernandez for Noles All Access.
Well, Coach, congratulations on getting off to the best start in program history.
Well, thanks, Jay. I mean, it means a lot with the players that we have. They're so young and getting off to that kind of start, but now we've got to continue that. And the season's very long, and we know that it's going to be a grind in the ACC.
Yeah, and 4 of those wins that you have this season come against top 25 ranked teams. Do you feel that your team really gets up for those type of matchups?
Well, I know they do. They understand, just how fun it is to play against top competition, but we've got to make sure that we bring that every single game. And that's sometimes hard for this age to really understand. It's not a given, especially in the ACC.
How do you relay that message to them, really drive that home that every game is important?
Well, I think it really goes back to our seniors, and they do a great job. They've been through it. They understand what it's like, and they're the ones that are communicating that and educating our younger players.
Well, let me ask you about the seniors, because you have 3 seniors that can absolutely light it up.
Yes, I do.
And they just so happen to be 1,000-point scorers for their career.
Yeah.
How much confidence does that give you as a coach going into every game knowing that you have such a reliable core?
Well, I think down the stretch that will be extremely important, and it obviously was early on, but now we're being scouted in such a way that they're trying to take away their strengths. So we need to have even more balance than that across the board and figure out a way to put them in situations where they're not always the focal point. They've done a fantastic job with that so far. Their leadership, their defense, all of it's so important to us.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, the underclassmen. Do you feel that their maturity and how they adapt to things will kind of dictate the overall success of this team moving forward?
No, I really do. I think the younger players are just now getting into that ACC play and understanding that, hey, my strengths are taken away. Hey, our team strengths are taken away. We've got to get it done on the defensive end, and that's, I think, something that comes with time and maturity, that they understand that.
And let me talk about them just a little bit more, because I'm so impressed with the underclassmen, London, River, and Sammy. I wanted to ask you, where can Sammy not shoot from? Like, what's her range?
Yeah, I tell you what, that kid is special. She can shoot from anywhere, and we got to do a good job of getting her open looks, and she's got to do a better job for us on the defensive end. So that's the thing that we're working on right now is, it's not football. You can't play offense, defense, and so for those players to help us on the offensive end, they have to continue to grow on the defensive end.
And you mentioned defense a few times, Coach. And I remember after the Georgia Tech game, you said that the better your team gets defensively, the better team that they'll be overall. Do you still feel that same way? Like, is that the biggest area that you all need to improve in?
Yeah, I know that that's true. That and rebounding the ball. That's the thing we did really well early on in the year. And as we started to win, and it felt like, oh, you know, maybe we are really good. I think that side, the players maybe let up a little bit. And certainly, you know, we've got to be the ones that change people on the defensive end of the floor. We want to take away what they do offensively. And I think that's the way that we'll be successful in the long run.
And I think one thing that this team has really been good at is dealing with adversity. You had 3 losses on the season, but you followed up each loss with the win. Is that your message to your team, like, because you have big games coming up against Wake Forest and Miami, to kind of not fall into a hole, to kind of build off that momentum after a loss?
You know, honestly, we just go back to the basics. We go back and say, this is where we have to improve. And we don't really dwell on that as much as what do we need to do to continue to get better. You know, our goals are still in front of us, but we've got to play better basketball. You know, I like to just look at it one day at a time, one game at a time. And so we'll get back after it and get ready to rock and roll again.
Well, since you said one game at a time, I'm not going to ask you. Well, I kind of am asking you. How far do you think your team can go this season?
You are asking me that.
Yep.
You know, again, it really depends on how we continue to develop as a defensive and a rebounding team. And I think, you know, there's a lot of heart, a lot of great camaraderie on this team, and we'll see. You know, I certainly don't want to put an expectation on them. They're going to put that on themselves as we move forward.
Well, thanks, Coach, and congratulations again on such a successful season.
Well, thanks for all you do. Appreciate it.
And as always, go
Noles.
Coming up, we'll preview the upcoming matchup against Notre Dame. The Look Ahead is presented by Florida Farm Bureau Insurance. Register to win the ultimate fan experience at nolescontest.com. Well, Coach, Notre Dame, this is a team that loves to shoot the three. They love to spread you out. And I think they have one of the best assist-to-turnover ratios in the whole country. They don't turn the ball over, but we know you all love to force turnovers, so what gives?
Something's going to give. There's no doubt about that. They are a tremendous shooting team, no doubt about that. And they have 2 guys that can really drive the ball to the basket, and they got a double machine inside. Guys who average double-figure rebounding, that means that they have an instinct that, and a rhythm and a level of concentration that really gives them something special. And then when you shoot the ball from the perimeter, and they're as talented as they are in those areas, shooting their free throws and then not turning the ball over, that means that we have our hands full.
It's going to be a packed house at the Tuck, and it's expected to be a blackout game. And you all have won your last 1 million games here at the Tuck. So how does this team feed off the energy here of the crowd?
You know, you really like to play in a home court when everyone's excited and the fans are going. But once the game starts, you know, you get caught up in the game. Very seldom will I hear the crowd, because you focus on what's going on between that area 94 by 50. I do think, though, during critical points in the game, that it energizes your players. It has a tendency sometimes to unnerve inexperienced teams that are traveling on the road. We are now starting to give people, though, a little dose of the medicine that we get when we go on the road, and I really appreciate that. Just what the doctor ordered.
Just what the doctor ordered. Well, fans, you heard that. Let's give those Notre Dame Fighting Irish a dose of their own medicine here at the Tuck Saturday night at 8 p.m. Look forward to it, Coach?
8 p.m. We're excited, and we're looking forward to it. And it's the important game because it's the next game.
The next game. You heard it here first. For Coach Ham, I'm Jay Sutton, and we'll see you next week on Noles All Access. Noles All Access is brought to you by the energy-saving conservation programs of Tico People's Gas. Real Coca-Cola taste with 0 sugar and 0 calories. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Taste the feeling.